AP, what about yourself? Are you? I'm not joking when you were sprightly out there.
I thought I was fit until I went out there, you know what I mean? But I'm 2 stone heavier than I was 3 years ago, like so. I felt like it was starting to tell after about 10 minutes, so it was. But no, it is a great experience to be able to go out in Croke Park. Not many people from Antrim can ever say they played in Croke Park, so I feel like I'm one of the special ones getting to I wouldn't say play football, but go out on the Croke Park and pretend or try to play football.
Kieran, when you went out on the pitch for the first time in Croke Park, did you get shocked by the sheer size of it? Because I think a lot of us out there today, probably due to the fact that we're severely unfit, we're like, the size of this place is incredible.
Yeah, I was like that. It was a minor. When I came on, my eyelids started hopping, actually, when my first ever time playing out there, and I was running around, I didn't know what was going on. So when it's packed as well, it makes it even feel bigger, because, you know, it nearly takes energy out of you. But it's a massive pitch, and yeah, when you're trying to tear after fellas nowadays too, with the way the game has gone, it's harder. It was great when I started. You kicked your point, you stood back in full forward, you waited for the next ball to come in, let the other fellas do the battling outside. Whereas now you find yourself doing a lot more running. But yeah, I think it's a game now really where, you know, everybody has to be kind of nearly as fit as each other, and everybody has to be at. You can't winter well anymore, I'd put it that way.
No.
Today's game obviously was all to do with self-help Africa, and for the Alan Kearns Foundation as well. And it was a pretty amazing experience for the rest of us numpties who obviously haven't got the skill or talent to get out here and experience it, and to go through all of that sort of formalities in the dressing room and that beforehand. What's it like when you're down there? Like, we were in the warm-up room beforehand, sort of getting straight into it with the warm-up routines and all. What sort of a guy are you in the warm-up room before you get out there?
Yeah, I suppose when you're up here, look, it's serious business when you're here. So it's, you know, you're just trying to get your head in the zone, get ready for the war, and make sure that those other fellas are getting ready with you. And if a fella doesn't look sharp or he's not at it, you get after him. And likewise, if a guy is kind of shying back from it, you try and encourage him. You know, maybe a young guy, a debutant or whatever. So, you know, you're just kind of scanning the room, trying to keep yourself calm, but get yourself going at the same time. It's an interesting balance to get there, because when you're in that room, you're still 40 minutes away from game time. So, you know, you can't have fellas banging their head off a wall inside there, because they're going to be no good to you come the game. So it's just striking that balance about getting the right level of intensity and making sure guys are up for the battle.
Were you always like that? Was that something when you came in from the very first off? Were you that guy all the time, or did that take a bit of time to build into?
In fairness, I'd have to say probably early on. You know, when we played Armagh here in 06, it was my first time starting for Kerry in a championship game against the mighty Armagh team at the time. So I was very much trying to get my head around Francie Bellew and the Armagh defence more so than look around the room. But I suppose when you get to 2018, you're kind of doing a bit of that. You're watching out for the young fellas more so than yourself. I guess you've kind of been through it so often. You know how to get yourself right, and you're probably doing a bit more scanning at the age of 35 compared to 22. Yeah.
Tony, what about yourself? Are you when you're in the weigh room before you went out for a race, what sort of guy were you? I mean, we've all seen the documentary, so we may know the answer to this already, but
I was pretty. I didn't really socialise a lot with anyone when I was in the weigh room during race, and especially at some of the bigger meetings, I kind of managed to get myself into the corner, and I kind of stayed there. I don't know, for whatever reason, my position on all the weigh rooms ended up being in the corner, round behind the door, basically. So I didn't have to look at anyone coming in or out. Anyone didn't have to look at me. It probably was something that other people enjoyed, not having to look at me either. So it suited both of us. But yeah, I was pretty quiet in the weigh room. You know what I mean? I was always pretty much in the zone, and you know, so everyone's different. You know, there's a lot of lads that are loud and rowdy and that, but I was always kind of like, I didn't interact with a lot of people. I was okay after racing and all that, but during racing I was. And
would you have to get, like, was there a process to get yourself into that mindset almost, or that something that just was there a trigger, or?
Not really. Was there a mindset? Look, it was about, like, sport, as these people know, you know, it's about winning, you know what I mean? And much and all as I was being employed by people to ride their horses, or whether it be an owner or a trainer, I wanted to win for me, to be honest, more than I wanted to win for anyone else. And the biggest problem I had was keeping me happy. You know, whatever about some fella paying me to ride his horse, or an owner or a trainer, they didn't have to live with me. They didn't have to go home with me, you know what I mean? So they only had to endure me for 5 or 10 minutes while I won or lost on a horse. So it was kind of, you know, I was the poor unfortunate one that had to put it with me all the time.
Do you miss that adrenaline rush?
Look, I miss winning and miss winning more than anything else. And you know, as Kieran or Sonia will tell you, you're going out in front of a big stage. You know, not every sports person will admit to it, but you have to have an element of ego inside you that wants to perform better than everyone else on the big stage. You want it to be about you. And you know, if you win the Cheltenham Gold Cup when there's 70,000 people there, or the Grand National, the same, you know. But I missed winning, and I missed that. In some ways, I missed the danger, and that's a tough thing to say because I saw colleagues being fatally injured, and I've got images in my head from lads going out and not coming back, you know. And you know, John Thomas McNamara getting a fall in Cheltenham, I'll never ever forget his suit hanging up in the corner, thinking he's never coming back, you know. And that's something that you live with all your life. But in some ways, I miss the danger. I miss 25 runner race at Cheltenham and getting kicked all over the place and thinking I got away with that. You know what I mean?
Most people say, like, I had a realization at some point in my career in terms of jockeys that actually I wasn't going to get away with this forever and I needed to get out. But what you're almost saying is that danger was a thing that almost kept you in there.
Yeah, I got I wouldn't say I got an adrenaline rush from it. I liked living on the edge. You know, I liked the element of thinking that, you know, say in that 25 run race, or you know, I broke my back in 2008 in Warwick and I was lying on the ground and I didn't know whether the sweat was running down my head from the pain or the fear of that I wasn't going to be walking. And within 5 minutes of being in an ambulance, and the ambulance drivers, the doctor put you in a spinal board and you can feel your feet and the whole lot's moving, you're thinking, how long am I going to be off for? And you're having an argument with the doctor thinking like, you need to make me better quickly. So your whole mind process changes in 5 minutes. You literally, you forget the fact that 5 minutes earlier you might not think you're ever going to walk again. So it's kind of like, you know, so, but in some ways I miss that. I miss that adrenaline rush. I miss the routine of it. I miss the discipline of it. I miss getting up in the morning needing the feeling of having to perform. You know, that whatever happened yesterday is irrelevant, that I need to be good today. And if I was bad today, I cannot wait till tomorrow. I'm going to be good tomorrow. You know.
Can you resonate with some of that, Sonia?
Yeah, no, I'd be exactly the same with things like that. So, like, if you didn't have a good session, I would go out and try and repeat it the next day and just try and, you just had to be happy with yourself. And if you weren't happy with yourself, then you couldn't rest or relax until you sorted it out and get your head ready to go again.
This won't be news to you, but there's a madness in what you're saying there.
I think actually in elite sport, I think there's a madness in Sonia O'Sullivan and Kieran Donaghy. They might not admit to it, you know, but there is a madness. You know, there has to be a madness, whether it's Mike Tyson, Zinedine Zidane, you know, whoever it may be, Tiger Woods. I think there's a craziness in them all. You know, I think there has to be that something different, something inside that you can't instill in someone. You know, I think, you know, to be a top elite sports person, there has to be something different. You know, there has to be something that makes you, you know, you're never satisfied. You're never content. You never feel that you're after achieving what you want to achieve. You're always chasing the next thing.
I enjoyed chasing you around Croke Park today and enjoyed chatting to you as well. I know you have to get off to the airport, so thanks a million for coming to chat to us. AP McCoy, everybody.
Thank you.
Sonia, Tony's been talking about obviously thanks a million. Cheers for that. Thanks a lot.
Okay. See you. Okay. Yeah, take care.
Tony's been talking about like missing. Pull in there, lads. Pull in. He's been talking about.
Because we can't hear you.
I know. Yeah.
Up here,
right? Come in close. We'll gather around.
AP, quieten him there before you go.
He talks about missing winning. Do you miss winning?
Not. I suppose you do, but then you kind of wean yourself off it as well because you know that it can't last forever. I think what happens is that you get to a point where you want to do more, and there's things that you don't complete, and then you get to a point and you can't do it anyway. So you have to find a way out.
How do you wean yourself off it? What do you do? What's your outlet?
I think you keep doing the same thing for a good while after, and then what happens is the effort that you're putting in, you don't get the same results back, and then you start to realize that this isn't adding up here. Okay. And so you go from doing things that you think make sense that most people don't, and then you realize that it doesn't make sense to work so hard but you don't get the results back. So then you get at the point where you're putting in much more than you're getting back, so you have to say, okay, well, I have to do something different here now. I have to change this because I'm not going anywhere.
How long were you doing that when you realized that?
I had no idea. You'd rather not think about it too much, I'd say for a good 4 years, because you go from, like in a runner or an Olympic athlete, your career is based on Olympics. Yeah. So you're always looking at the next Olympics, and then when you get to the next one, it's like, well, you either decide you retire or you might go for the next one. And then you get halfway through and you try and push through, and you either make your mind up or you fail to make it to the next one. And when you fail to make it to the next one, then the decision is made for you.
What were you like? We were chatting to the lads obviously about sort of the different kind of characters that they were before they went out to compete, and different dynamics between team and individuals. But what were you like as as an individual in the changing area before you went out?
Well, I would always have a similar routine every time. So it was like clockwork, So everything followed a pattern.
Right.
And so it always, when I got to the track, I would go behind the high jump mat and lie down, put your legs up, read something, and you'd always have you'd be on a countdown of your watch the whole time and always counting down to the race. And so it was like a bit of a, I don't know, you just didn't think about it. It just happened, and you just fell into this pattern of things, and before you know it, you're on the start line. And then and once you started into that routine in the day, then you knew that there was no going back, and it was always getting closer and closer to the race.
Conor, what about yourself? There's a very easy segue into what you're doing now at the minute. I know obviously some of your stuff is obviously recording that, but you obviously do a lot of live performance as well. What are you like this guy before you get out and do a live performance?
Yeah, I think so. Even a lot of people were talking about, I'm obviously following the golf tournaments now and things like that, but I went to a golf tournament about 3 years ago, and it was the best tournament I was ever at. It was only a small one. Now when I go to them, they're these big events, but you're working at them so you're never really. I was actually asking the lads about that, the Dublin lads today. I was saying about Croke Park, do you enjoy it when you come here? And they were kind of saying, you enjoy after the match when you get the win, but before it, you don't really, you're so concentrated on the game. And I suppose I'm kind of like that, especially going to gigs and stuff like that. You're always just thinking about the gig, making sure you get the lines right and things like that. And you don't enjoy the moment, I think, enough. But it's still, when the gig goes well for you, please God anyway, you can enjoy it then, do you know what I mean, and get your few pints into you.
You're not doing too bad.
More often than not,
We've obviously seen you're sketching the Sunday game, your impersonations got to meet the real people in the Sunday game in the summer. Did that ever happen with the golf at all? We obviously saw Sergio and the likes tweeting about you. Did you actually get to meet him first person at any of the tournaments you've been at?
I did. I was at the British Open, and I was just walking along the fence. It was on the Wednesday. It was a practice round, and out of nowhere then Justin Rose came up behind me, and he did his impression to me, and he was like, a lot of ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys. And I was just standing talking to him for a few minutes. The golfers are all so nice, but Poulter writes to me on Twitter. Poulter reminds me a lot like Joe Brolly. He loves it. He's embraced it. He's invited me to do a gig in December in Orlando, and he wants the cameras there and the whole lot. He wants to get a good to get some traction out of it. So he's definitely enjoying it. I don't know. I think Bubba Watson or a few of them. I don't know if they're fans of it. I don't know, but.
Oh really? You think there's a bit of?
I don't know. Someone said that to me, but.
I can't believe you're telling me Bubba Watson is not good crack. That is absolute shock horror.
And I wouldn't mind actually. Rory Stories is here. When I did the Masters video, the video that kind of got it all going for me. Rory said to me on the phone, he said, "Geez, you got to do Bubba." And I was like, "I don't have enough time to do Bubba." And he goes, "So you don't have to do him, just have him crying." Right. So I ended up, all I did was I cried in the video, and most of the comments were about Bubba Watson. Everyone was like, "You nailed Bubba, you nailed Bubba." And there was no impersonation there at all. So I have to thank Rory Stories for that one. His guidance is invaluable.
You've had a busy few days with the county final down in Westmeath. It turns out you retired at just the exact wrong moment
same age as Georgie Best. But
is that where the comparison ends? Is it?
I had to give it up this year. Like I just didn't, because club football even, it's a huge commitment, and the lads are giving it 3 evenings a week and then their own stuff and things like that. And my uncle was the manager, my cousin was the captain. Nepotism for you there, you know what I mean? Although he deserved it, in fairness to him. My brother was playing full forward, so. Of all the things that happened this year, I was just saying to my older brother there on Sunday, I was like, you'll never maybe get another night like this. Yeah. It was a town final. We were playing Lomans. They were going for 4 in a row. And to get that win, it was just incredible. And all your best friends are playing, and it was such a family thing. And that's what makes the GA so special. Of all the golf gigs and all the soccer gigs I do, the GA gigs, you definitely get the big kick-off, really, for me anyway. Just from growing up in a GA household, and also a lot of the GA players, because I started out doing the GA, so many of the lads, even himself, I didn't meet him now until today, but he texted me randomly there a couple of weeks ago congratulating me. Conor McManus, Paul Flynn, loads of the lads, they all kind of have your back, it's like you're a GA fella or something, you know what I mean? Going out into the golf world. I said to himself earlier on, if I can find the golfing version of Gerlach Nan, I'll be a millionaire, so I'm looking forward to that. It'll be hard got though.
Yeah, listen, I'm sure that NBC contract, you're on the right track, right? That's, you're obviously spending a lot of time in the US at the minute as well.
Yeah.
How's that? Is that Mullingar to whereabouts are you mainly based?
Well, at the minute I'm just kind of going over and back, but I'm moving to New York now in about 3 weeks.
Right.
But I have a cousin over there, an uncle over there. My brother, he's an attorney. He's been living there about 7 years. So it was kind of that or Orlando, and Orlando is there's nothing really. There's golf courses there, and you're kind of be on your own. In New York, it's like a home away from home. There's loads of Mullingar lads, and when you're Irish in New York, you think it's a big place. It's not. And I lived there for 2 years, so I'm looking forward to getting back. I'm just working on my Donald Trump and things like that at the minute, and Tiger Woods, conditions are really tough out there and all that kind of stuff, so that's where I'm at the minute.
Trump, give us a blast of Trump there.
Well, it was a tremendous, tremendous game out there today, I gotta say, I watched it from the Cusack stand. Michael Cusack is a great friend of mine. It was really great. Mihal Martin, he was the manager, I spoke to Mihal for 20 minutes. I didn't understand a word he said, I gotta be honest with you. It was all blah, 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 blah.
Yes, but, excellent stuff.
Mihal's gonna make Fianna Fáil great again, I can tell you.
I know you've got a load of stuff to do for the good people out here later on, so we'll let you go for the minute. Thanks a million, Conor Moore, everybody. Thanks a million, Conor. Cheers for that. I think it'll be Tomás O'Leary in the wings as well. He's going to come up and join us in a minute. Thanks a million, Conor. Cheers for that. He's going to come up and join us now in a minute. Kieran, we were going to have a good chat with you about club football in Kerry.
Yeah, county final next Sunday. It'll be good.
It's more last Sunday I wanted to talk about.
I was at the game. There was unsavoury stuff. It's gone so intense now, the club game. It's kind of it's like Conor said, they're putting so much into it. It's 3 or 4 nights a week, so tensions are very high. A few decisions go haywire, and you can't condone what's going on. And it's a pity really, because it overshadowed what was a brilliant display by Dingle. Paul Ganey got 3-1. 2 fantastic goals from play. Slotted a lovely penalty, and he put on an exhibition of leadership. Tackling back, doing all the scoring, but tackling back, knowing what had to be done. Mikey Ganey was very good. Tom Sullivan, who came very good for Kerry this year, was brilliant as well. So next week's going to be very exciting. Crokes and Dingle, loads of good players on the pitches and it should make for a great game of football. And hopefully, that stuff is kind of figured out, and we don't have any of it next week.
What do you make of the new appointments in Peter Keane?
Yeah, very exciting. I think it's a very good management team put together. They'll have to be given a bit of time, a young team there. But in Kerry, they'll still be expecting to be back in the top table next year. So that'll be Peter's assignment. He won't get any leeway off of the fans or the players, because that's, I was in that dressing room this year. Just because they lost a few of us old fellas, that doesn't mean they're not going to be going for the All-Ireland next year. They'll be a very fresh and hungry group, and I'm really looking forward to supporting them and see how they get on.
Yeah, it feels like you're going to have to keep up the basketball for a few more years, listening to AP and listening to Sonia talking about life after sport and that lack of competitive edge.
Yeah, I know the basketball certainly keeps my competitive edge going, and I'll have a few years to give to the club. So yeah, no, it's people say, oh, what's retirement like? It's I'm busier than ever if I'm being honest. But yeah, no, look, it's exciting. The basketball is a very enjoyable sport to play, and I get a great kick out of it. I'm extremely busy. We're training 3 nights a week. We've a game at the weekend. I'm my basketball camp next week, so it's non-stop, and you're trying to fit in work and family balance as well. So yeah, pretty busy, thanks be to God.
How long before you start coaching Kerry?
Jesus, no, I'll be leaving that to Peter Keane's team now, and I'll be watching. I'll be taking a few notes from the sideline.
We'd Ronan Regard down in Limerick the other week, and he's like different sport obviously, and people in GA tend to be much more, I suppose, like whether it's real modesty or a GA type of modesty about, you know, ambitions or whatever, and he's quite front up about sort of saying, look, at some point or another I will get involved with Ireland, or I will get involved with Munster, or whatever it is. You will at some point. It seems inevitable that you're fascinated by that area, you're interested in tactics, you've been around the game at the highest level. You will at some point get involved at the top level, you would assume.
I'll have to make sure that I'm up to it. You know, it's all well and good people saying.
How do you find that out?
I think you obviously have to do a bit of work.
Club coaching.
Yeah, you have to do a bit of coaching at some level, at some grade. You know, and I'd be interested in looking at other sports, maybe getting in with a rugby team just to see what they're doing. I'll go to America. I'll go looking at maybe college basketball teams. I have a few contacts over there to see what they're doing, see if there's anything you can take and add to the game over here. And you know, I'll do a bit of that and dip my toe in the water at some level and see if I'm good enough. I'm not going to put myself forward or try and go after a Kerry job if I don't feel I'm up for it. So it's a long way to go before that. But obviously, you know, it would be a huge honour to manage Kerry, but it's a high pressure job. Yeah. I was always a fan's favourite in Kerry, thanks be to God. It was the only place I was a fan's favourite. So you know, if you take on the manager's role and you don't deliver, I'd be public enemy number 1 there as well as everywhere else. So it's tricky. It's a tricky one. It's a big pressure job that you don't get paid for, and that your family and yourself have to put up with a lot of stick when results don't go well, because that's the environment we're in these days. If the results don't go well, it seems to be the manager's fault, even though there's 15 of us running around the pitch that aren't doing the job that we're supposed to do for the manager. So I think a lot more has to go into player culpability and make sure that we're doing our job. You know, I think the manager is always the easy one. It started with the Premiership, I think. You know, hire him, fire him. If he's not doing the job, get rid of him. It's his fault. Nothing to do with the 25 players that are getting paid millions of pounds to do their job. So yeah, it's a funny one, but it's a job that I'd really have to be comfortable in my own knowledge that I'd be able for it, and that I'd be up for it, and that I wouldn't be letting the county down before I'd ever think about taking it, really.